I'm Charlotte Mooney. I am one of the artistic directors of Ockham's Razor. We're a contemporary circus theatre company, and we've been going for 20 years. And I am also one of the co-directors of Tess.
Amazing. And then where did it all kind of begin for you in terms of theatre and performance?
Oh, wow. Kind of a huge question. So I initially was a dancer. I trained as a dancer, and then I went to university to study English literature. And as part of my degree, I had a year in Chile, in South America, actually to study Chilean poetry. It's like totally random thing. And Chile at that time, Santiago, it's kind of like about 2001, 2002, had a very, very amazing physical theatre scene that was very radical, making a lot of very political, interesting, beautiful work that actually combined physical theatre and circus. And at that time, I'd stopped dancing. I'd gone to university. I was smoking 20 fags a day, drinking all the beer that God sends, reading books and not moving my body at all.
Yeah.
And I was really missing a kind of physical outlet. And so there was a combination of being in South America and really wanting to move and seeing this amazing theatre that was being created physically that I just found so inspiring. And also that it was devised and created new, and it kind of blew my mind. So I came back to England and I finished my degree, and I heard about a school in Bristol called Circomedia that pegged itself as a circus school for physical performers or a physical theatre school for circus performers. And I just thought it looked amazing. And so I applied at the age of 23 and went, and everybody thought I was completely insane. And so I went and I trained for only a year. And then after that, I started making work. And so the last 20 years, I've been making work that combine like the real sort of physical end of theatre. That's the short answer.
Yeah. And obviously, as you say, you're artistic director or co-artist director of Ockham's Razor, which you've, like you say, since 2004.
Yes.
What kind of led you to that role?
Well, so I met my partner, Alex, who's also my life partner. We met at circus school, and it's quite common in the circus world, actually, that you make work with your partners. We did doubles trapeze together, and we had shared a sensibility about the kind of work that we wanted to make. So we made our first piece sort of almost immediately out of circus school, which was a two-hander called Memento Mori, which was about someone's relationship to death. It was very choreographic, quite short, 13-minute piece. And that we applied to an award that still exists. It used to be called Jeune Talent Circuit. It was the French or kind of pan-European award to help burgeoning circus performers, and they gave you a little bit of seed money and support to make shows. So we made this piece together. We got some money from them, and then we together started to make work, and then it grew from there. Yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of our trajectory.
Then how do you kind of reflect now, 20 years on that time you've had with the company?
Well, it's been incredible. It's been amazing, and our shows are very. So we've made, I think, maybe 10 full-length shows for a brief. So that was Alex and I. Tina Koch was the third artistic director for a long time as well. She's sadly now left the company. It's back to the two of us. Yeah. But we've made lots of very, very, very different shows. Some of them have had text in. Some of them have been non-verbal. Some of them have been real narratives. Some of them have been more abstract. And we still try and do that and really explore this art form, which is like the physicality of circus and where that meets with storytelling and emotion and relationships. Interestingly, it's still quite a new art form, I think, for a lot of the British public. Even though we've had a bit of a following now, people know our work more and more. Yeah. It's still quite a niche art form, and we still often have to explain it to people and have them kind of understand what it is that we do.
Yes, and obviously you talked about Circomedia there. Kind of going full circle, obviously now you do a bit of teaching there as well. Kind of how rewarding is that for you, kind of having that full circle?
It's amazing, actually. I just did it last weekend, so this is sort of good timing. So they have an MA in directing circus, which I think is the only one. It's certainly in the UK, which is amazing because it's really a chance for us for me to stop and have to think about my practice and what I actually do, and then to engage with people. I think one of the best things about circus is that, and this kind of circus especially, is that it is a new art form. So people are still kind of figuring out how it works, which means it's very exciting. And it means a lot of the work is really different from each other. But it also means that like directors are quite often on their own, like figuring it out. That can be extraordinary, and also can feel quite tricky because people feel like they have to reinvent the wheel every time. So that teaching's amazing because it's just to try and pass on some processes and some wisdom and some kind of approaches to the next generation of people coming along to like help them out a bit, but also acknowledgement of the fact that it's still very experimental, it's still very wide. People can bring their own approach to it, which makes it a very exciting place to teach. I still think it's an amazing school. I still think it's the most innovative and forward-looking of all the circus schools.
Yes, and obviously on to Tess, which we're talking about, which is going on tour. I know it's already started its tour.
Yeah,
they've got the tour kind of kicking off again in Malvern next week.
Yeah.
What led you to Tess?
Well, we've never done an adaptation of a novel, and this is probably the most like theatrical, I suppose, of any of our pieces, in that there is an actor who is talking to the audience with a script. So it's the most kind of, like it's recognizably a physical theatre show, I think. We wanted to do that because I think we felt ready to do that, so that was like one of the sort of calls to do it, was that we've spent years working out how to use the physicality of circus to like tell really specific storytelling. So this was a real challenge to take like this like beloved classic of English literature and see how we could tell, the vast majority of it just through physicality. So that's been an amazing process for us to do. I think the other reason that we wanted to do it was because it's a book that's haunted me and Alex for years and years and years. And it's a very, very... Do you know it? Have you read it?
Not read it. We did it at school, though, kind of the film and all that.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah, everyone's like...
Everyone's like, they go, I did it at school.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so then I'll come to that later. So I also did it at school, and also weirdly I taught it when I first started out with doing circus stuff. I would earn money by home tutoring people. It was one of the books I used to home tutor. So kind of reluctant A-level students. It's actually a very physical book. She's a labourer, and a lot of interestingly, when you reread it, it's really passionate and it's got loads of love in it, and it's got, it's a really embodied book. It's really visual. It really riffs off these really visual details, which I think is why it's been made for television and film so many times, because it's a really visual book. But a lot of the like grit and the strength and the relationships often don't translate, I think, into other adaptations I've seen. So we wanted to make an adaptation that was really embodied, and we felt that circus would really serve that. And also the sort of dreamy aspect. The other thing about the book is it's got this undertone of like fate and philosophy and kind of horror, that we knew that the kind of strange atmosphere and worlds and mesmerizing kind of spell that you can weave with physicality and use of props, that we could weave that as well. So it felt like increasingly like a really good novel to adapt, in that it's physical, it's very poetic, it's very visual, and also it's very relevant to now because it's sadly still relevant in terms of what it has to say about abuse of power and hierarchy and assault.
And as you say, it's the kind of first novel that kind of even adapted. How's that then when you've already got kind of the text there to follow, I suppose?
It's a lot easier. I mean, it was funny. There are hard things about it, and there are amazing things about it. The thing that was, it changes place a lot. She goes to 100 different places. There are so many different characters. It's intricate. It's really specific. So there were challenges to wrestle with, certainly. And we're still, one thing with our shows which we've always done, is that they open and then during the tour they evolve, and we keep working on them and embedding them. And Alex and I always go on tour with the shows for as long as possible so we can keep giving notes. So even now we're still kind of finding ways to get the rhythm of it so that you can smooth these kind of vast changes of place and time. But it also in some ways was a lot easier because we had this incredible story which Hardy has gifted, this beautiful, very rich world. And the other thing is, I think I've probably read the book about 20 times in the last year. So I'm just constantly reading it and still finding things and still realizing things, which is amazing. Like, it makes me realize what an absolutely incredible writer he is. One last thing, sorry, I know I'm bollocking on. He, because he's such a poet, all of the text that's spoken. So the way the show is framed is that there is the figure of Tess, and the show starts of her at the end of the novel, and she is telling the audience how she got to that point. So the words are only ever spoken by her, and what the other 6 acrobats do and circus performers is they create her memories. So essentially she's like, I'm going to tell you the story, this is what happened to me, and then they create the images of it. But every word that she speaks is taken from the novel, so it's all Hardy's text. But he writes in a way that is so poetic, like rhythmically beautiful, that when she speaks it sounds like spoken words, like it functions as script really well, because he's so good at writing just his cadences are so natural. So that was, I think, made my life a lot easier.
You're inspiring me to read the book now, so
there you go.
Touch on the kind of, you say people do it at school. You guys are offering kind of workshops around the production. Kind of how important was it to do that? It
was really important. So that was the other reason actually for wanting to do the show, is that we wanted to choose a novel that was part of the A-level syllabus, and it still is. And partly because we want to reach those audiences, those young audiences, English literature A-level students, but also GCSE and A-level drama students, to sort of say to them, like, look, there's this art form that exists that can translate in this way, and to kind of just to push the art form a bit, like the awareness of it and the understanding of it. So what we're offering to schools is for school groups to come see the show, then afterwards we go back to them, we have a full resource pack with interviews with all of the creative team and explanations of how we made the show, a 2-hour masterclass with them to lead them through techniques that we actually used in creation with cast members or Alex or myself or the choreographer. And then we leave them with tasks and workshops and QR codes and a film of the show to carry on work afterwards. So we're really, really trying to use this as an opportunity to spread awareness of the art form and like how we make this work.
Amazing.
I'm old enough now that I meet people occasionally that say, oh, I saw your show 20 years ago, and it's the thing that made me want to start making theatre or start making physical theatre. So, which is always amazing when you hear that. And so I think we've realised, like, actually there's really, if this art form is going to get better known, like we have to be proactive about doing that.
Yeah, of course. And I've got kind of 3 questions. These are just generally about you and theatre.
Okay.
What performances or shows inspired you in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. Funnily enough, I've been very, very inspired by dance.
Yeah.
So the biggest ones were Akram Khan's Giselle, which I think is the greatest piece of art ever made. And there was a piece they used to be called George Piper Dancers, but now they're called Ballet Boys. And they made a piece back in the day called Mesmerics, which blew my mind because every time I watched it, I think I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times, at the same moment, I would burst into tears, and I never knew why. It had made nothing logical or narrative was happening. It was just something. Every time it would be about to happen, I'd be like, oh, the bit's about to happen. I don't think it's going to get me this time. And then it would get me. That was really insightful. So that, from that perspective, in terms of circus, I would say probably James Thierry and Victoria Thierry, the Chaplin grandchildren. The work that they made was very, very, very inspiring. And in terms of theatre, Hugh Hughes. Do you know him?
Nope.
Okay, you should check him out.
Yeah.
Oh, John Dale Jones is, I got his name right. I think that's his name. But he had a character called Hugh Hughes that made a series of shows. Story of the Rabbit was one of them. That was a major influence.
Amazing. And then what keeps you inspired yourself as a creative?
Just making, I think. I think knowing that the best bit is being in the room and making the discovery in the moment. And it's lovely when you finish the show and you perform it in front of an audience and you get the applause and all that. But the best bit is the day really hard and you've thrown loads of things against the wall and nothing's worked, and then suddenly something happens and you're taken by surprise by it. I still find that, I still find it like a feeling of discovery that it's not I'm in charge of, it's kind of happening to everyone in the room, and that's an amazing feeling. I feel that more and more so, actually. I feel less responsible for it.
Yeah. No, you're in charge. You're the head. So.
No. You just gotta, there's a thing that someone told us. It's a mentor of mine, and she got it from an anthropologist, actually, but it's show up, pay attention, tell the truth, don't be attached to the results. And that is endlessly true and helpful.
Yes. And then simply, what does theatre and performance mean to you?
It's just the opportunity. So in terms of, that's a really good question. So it's not the same as making. So it's not making, it's like the act of watching it. So the act of performance.
Yeah.
It's one of the only live things, one of the few live things where you can go and have a communal live experience, and there's nothing more exciting than that. And you can feel it. When you feel it, there was a moment in a performance recently, and you could just feel the shift in the audience of like when the atmosphere shifted and it was kind of happening to everyone. And it's ritual and it's magic and it's incredibly powerful still.
Yes. And then my final question for you, what would you hope an audience member takes away from seeing Tess?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of people have said that they're going to read the book. Quite pleased about that. The thing that I felt about the book was that they're not so different, those people, from, I mean, he wrote it 1891, but it's set 1860, 1870. But those women aren't so very different. And they were insanely strong. I think it's that. I think it's the sort of companionship and sisterhood and struggle and all of the joy in that has been going on for a long time, and a sort of sense of fellowship with the people from the past. I want people to feel that.
Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you, Charlotte, for your time. The Tess is touring again. Next date is 13th of November in Malvern. And there is a run at the Peacock Theatre in London from the 31st January until the 3rd of February.